Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over a handful of shortcuts and features for adding rows and columns and adjusting the widths and whatnot in that. Super useful once you get the hang of this. It makes you so much more productive within Excel and so much quicker. The first thing I'm going to show you is adding a row. So there's a few ways to do it. You can come up here, you could click on 4, right click, uh, insert, and it's going to insert the row. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is if you're just on a cell in a row, you can actually hit Shift plus space, and that will highlight the whole row. And then you can do Control plus, or if you're on a keyboard that doesn't have its own individual plus button, you would do Control Shift equals, and that will just automatically add the row there. And then to delete the row, you can do Control minus. Same thing for columns. You can come up here, you can select the whole column, right click, insert, and you can see, I mean, that's a pretty tedious process to like click and do all that. But another thing you can do is you can actually hit Control space, and that will actually highlight the entire column. And then you can do Control Shift plus or Control Shift equals or Control plus, and that will actually add the row there. And then once again, you could do Control Shift to highlight the row and then Control minus to delete the column. Super simple, super easy. Another really useful thing I see is if you want to move, say you wanted like this row to go above the next row, you can actually, if you highlight the row with Shift space and then hit Control X, you can actually come up one row, hit Shift space again to highlight that row, and then go ahead and hit Control Shift equals, and it will actually just move that entire row up. Super useful, super easy. It's better than sometimes what you see people doing is they'll add a row here and then they'll come and they'll copy it and then they'll paste it down here and then they'll go up to their old row and they'll delete the old row, and it kind of just becomes a bit of a nightmare when all you really have to do is just highlight it, Control X, go to the next one, highlight it, and Control Shift plus, and it just swaps them instantly. Same thing with columns. Highlight it, Control X, go to the other one, highlight it, Control Shift plus, and it'll just add it right there. Um, One other thing to mention is if you have a formula when you're adding or removing rows, so like say we have a sum right here, right? And it's to sum all of these. Um, Say you needed to add another row of data at the bottom, 11, you'll see how the sum doesn't update, it stays there. So whenever you're kind of adding rows, if you need totals at the bottom to update with it, add the rows before the last row of data. So if you add a couple of rows right there, and now if we come in and add 11 and 12, you'll see when you add it kind of in the original row of where the formula was, it'll actually pick up any new rows you add, it'll expand with it. But if you add rows after the formula won't pick it up. So that's another really helpful thing to just keep in mind when you're doing this. Um, and the last thing I want to touch on here, this is a much more basic concept, just make sure everyone's aware you can adjust the width by clicking up here, dragging, things of that nature. And you can do the same for rows. And there's actually shortcuts for that as well. You can do Alt H O, so Alt H O, and then you'll see over here you can adjust row height, auto row height, column width, all these different things. So you could do, if you want to change the width, hit W, it's going to show you the column width. You could double it to whatever, you know what I mean, make it big again, kind of however you want to handle that. So there's shortcuts for that as well. And the best way to find those is you just hit Alt. It's going to show you all the different tabs here. You hit H for home, and then you'll see format over here is O, and then you can go down the list and pick what you need. And after a while, you get a lot more comfortable and familiar with those. But yeah, that's all I had to show you today around adding and removing rows and columns. If you have any questions at all, feel free to leave it in the comments below and I'll get back to you. And I hope you found this video useful. Thanks so much.